Hey, everybody, welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
I'm Sol.
And it's Bogz.
And we're here. The day has finally come. The finale, part 6 for Obi-Wan Kenobi. We're here to break the whole thing down, talk about what we thought, how we feel, and how we feel about the show overall now that we've seen it beginning to end. And I'm going to throw this one up first. It's just this. I was so nervous about them sticking the landing. A lot of these Disney Plus shows with their finales, they're kind of hit and miss as far as pacing and doing what they need to do. I thought this one stuck the landing in grand fashion. I thought they did a really nice job of tying up a lot of those loose ends, doing what needed to be done, delivering on promises they made at the beginning of the show, and I even satisfying some qualms I may have had with the show, not all, but some, going through most of this thing. So I'll take it to you first. How did you feel about this overall?
I really enjoyed this episode. I still probably would put last week's episode maybe as the best. Not sure because I literally just watched. It's between these last two episodes. There's still some things that I'm like, why did this happen? This doesn't make sense. I like what's going on, but it's not making sense to me. So if you take away your logical brain, you're like, cool stuff is happening on screen. But then when you add your logical brain, you're like, why is this happening?
And we'll get into all that in a second. Let's first toss the Bogz now. Just kind of overall thoughts on the finale for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
The failure is now complete. All episodes are done. This episode was, I think Sol just summarized it there. I genuinely think this is a bad series, but there is cool moments dropped in, sprinkled in. I did in fact get a little emotional at one point during this episode. But yeah, it's a rough series, to be honest. Big letdown for me, unfortunately. But like I said, there are some undeniable cool moments, but it's not high enough to make it, a must watch or recommended, unfortunately. It is worth the price of admission for, Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor, seeing them back on screen and some other characters. But yeah, it was a rough watch overall.
Well, let's go ahead and throw this thing up right now, letting everybody know from here on out, it's all spoilers all the time. And I'm going to go ahead. Let's get into some of the big things we had. Let's start with the one that we've all kind of been waiting for throughout the whole thing, which is the big confrontation between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. We have heard, reports from the set that it was the fight choreography everyone was watching, and that it was some life-changing kind of stuff, that it was going to be just absolutely devastating. Bogz, how did you feel about the big fight between Obi-Wan and Vader?
Yeah, I was looking forward to it, of course, and the build-up throughout the episode. It was a couple of minutes before when they're on the Obi-Wan gets on that separate ship, and before he lands on the planet, I really, really, really hoped Vader was going to jump in a TIE fighter, and then we'd hear some regular scores and themes and stuff. But we didn't get that. But they did land. I was starting to get on the edge of my seat, and yeah, I mean it was good. It was cool. Seeing Obi-Wan in full flow power wise. And I'd say that the score in this episode was at its best throughout this series. It wasn't great though. There was literally sprinkles of, themes from Revenge of the Sith, from A New Hope, and the Imperial March, things like that. But it was still, the score is an integral character in Star Wars, and it was so lacking throughout this whole series. It's probably the worst score in any Star Wars property I've ever seen. But this was where it was at its best. And yeah, the actual fight, I mean, it was good. I definitely enjoyed it, seeing Obi-Wan back to full strength, and with the whole kind of rocks when he was lifting them, and the Jesus kind of moment, Jesus stance and stuff. That was pretty cool. But I did, in the moment, I did enjoy Vader's mask being cut and things like that. But in hindsight, it's literally a copied scene from Rebels. They're copying themselves even from their new canon. It's I couldn't believe it. Thinking about it. At the time, it was like, oh my god, Hayden Christensen, the voice. I was absolutely edging my seat, and then afterwards I'm thinking they've literally done this, and it was better in the animation, so it's really confusing, but I did enjoy that moment. Obviously, like I said, it is worth the price of admission seeing them two together. They're some of my favorite characters in all of cinema, so I did enjoy that, but it should have been a lot better. But yeah, as soon as Obi-Wan did the two fingers thing with the saber, I was okay, we're on. And like I said, I did enjoy it, but there's I just don't think it was done as good as I was hoping for, but I did enjoy the certain parts of it.
So for me, I think that it's a clever. You're right, because you're right. Obviously, that entire mask cutting thing is straight out of Rebels. I think some interesting choices were made because it's literally the opposite side of where Ahsoka hit Vader's mask. So I'm wondering if it was almost like some kind of weird metaphor for the different sides of who Anakin is. The dialogue's a bit different. Obviously, she was looking at him as a former master. He was looking at him as a former Padawan. I thought the fight choreography itself was really, I mean, it was brutal. It was intense. I mean, then kudos to the special effects department who had the foresight to say, hey, they're swinging their sabers around this crowded hallway. And I felt the same thing about in Revenge of the Sith when they're fighting in a hallway and their sabers are nicking the wall, there's sparks flying, and they had the foresight to say, hey, they're swinging around this path of rocks. Let's make sure the rocks and stuff are sparking as they're swinging their sabers, because they're gonna hit them. There was a fierceness and a brutality. I mean, there was almost desperation in this fight between the two of them, where they were just trying to prove something to each other. I love Vader's line of, your strength has returned, but your weakness is still there. Like, yeah, you've got your connection to the Force back, but you're still not the same Obi-Wan you used to be. And that line of, you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did. It was kind of that nail in the coffin of like, this was me, like this was my choice. I wasn't your failure. Like I was my own success more than anything else. So what about you? How did you feel about
on the back of that, Mike? I just, before I forget, sorry. I did love the line of I love the line of Obi-Wan saying, I must do what I must, again, before he does the whole two things. Yeah, great. Yeah. And also I do respect the fact that they've spelt out in the show for me that Obi-Wan just beats Anakin / Vader in any scenario, any circumstances, any age, whether it's Revenge of the Sith, whether it's in the Clone Wars, whether it's now, whether it's in A New Hope. Obviously, we do see, Obi-Wan fall then, but he says, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful, etc. So he wins that round, he wins even that battle for me, because he became more powerful, to help Luke, etc. So he just has his number, and he just proves that again and again and again, even in this battle here, where he's just more experienced, he's more well balanced in the Force. And I'm glad they didn't change that, because I knew that going into this series, so I'm glad they kept to that. We all knew obviously Obi-Wan was going to win this fight, of course, but yeah, I should have mentioned that before, but yeah, sorry.
No, it's a great point. I also want to just echo the point, just Obi-Wan with the rocks. I mean, I think my neighbors probably heard me scream, "Get wrecked, son!" Soul, what did you think about this fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan?
I thought it was cool as hell. The brutality, just the fight choreography, it did feel like kind of like Revenge of the Sith. So you're getting that kind of doubled over here. So when they were going, this is the best thing ever, I was like, no, this is kind of the same as before, but it's still cool as fuck. Like, but the thing that kind of, and I don't know, I kind of chalked it up to like the arrogance of Vader walking away. Like, come on, you have the Force. You probably could sense that he was still cool down there, but you walk away as if like, oh, I got him. It's all good. Like,
yeah,
it was like you had the high ground there by pushing him down. I thought it was going to be like Obi-Wan showing this is how you get out of this situation, because before in Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan had the high ground, but no, Vader just walks away like, peace. Like,
yeah, I think there's actually great moments of that in this show, and this alludes to a point that we'll get to in a little bit with a certain cameo that I honestly can't believe I didn't expect to see, and I'm glad we did. But it's suggested that when it comes to Obi-Wan, Anakin is kind of an idiot. He gets confused and clouded real easily because of his own bullshit. And I think that that's just another great moment of he's so convinced that he's better than Obi-Wan that he gets blinded by his own arrogance. I don't
And
know,
then
much into it.
what was really, really cool about the fight for me is just the lighting of the sabers, like on their faces, just the way that lighting works. Like that's the coolest thing that they've done. Where they've done it with Ahsoka and Mandalorian, they're doing it here in this show where the lightsabers look cool as hell with the lighting and everything.
Yeah, they're using them to create almost ambient lighting. And what I think was really cool about when they're having their back and forth at the end is at moments, because their lightsabers are off screen, but they're still illuminating their faces, when it's just him talking to Anakin through this broken mask for a little while there, Anakin's cast in blue. And then it's when he finally delivers that line of, I killed Anakin, you didn't, I wasn't your failure, is when it shifts full red. And it's almost like this weird visual metaphor for those glimmers of Anakin still being in there and then letting the dark take back over.
And doing that too with the voice. You get a glimmer more of Hayden there, you get a glimmer more of Vader. Like just the sound mixing of the voice between Vader's voice and Anakin's voice. I thought that was really good.
And I do hear the criticisms coming from, I completely understand it with it being, it's a copy of the moment in Rebels. I almost feel like this was their way of kind of acknowledging they know that not everyone has seen Rebels. And so I can kind of see why they might want to throw that homage in there. But I do agree, it does seem a little bit lazy to copy the moment almost exactly. It's a cool visual. It's a cool shot and it's a cool moment. And cool. I got to see it twice. But, were there other ways they could have handled it? Probably.
My biggest issue with it is that Vader is a smart person. When something happens to him once, he does not let that same mistake happen again, kind of thing. And so the fact that this is a same mistake that happens twice, this now being the earlier case of that, then it shouldn't have happened again in Rebels. And it looked cooler in Rebels too. So I think that's kind of like okay, you're doing something that us fans who watch all this stuff has already seen before. And it looks cool in live action and when you're watching it in the moment, but then you're like, narratively, this doesn't make sense. And that was some of the issues that when we get to like Reva and some of that stuff, I'm like, this looks cool, but narratively, it's not making sense to me.
So in the Rebels scene where his mask is cut, it looks so much cooler. The score is so much better. It's so much more emotional. It's dramatic. Ezra screaming behind him. Kane is blind. There's so much more going on. The environment that they're in that Sith temple. The only thing here that was really different was it was Hayden Christensen, obviously there. But something else that you mentioned there, Saul, that the way that Vader walks off and just leaves him. I feel like it's because they're not using Vader correctly. Like the action stuff that he does, it's cool, but again, I don't feel like he would just, Vader would just leave him like that, or like he wouldn't just let Reva live in like he did in the previous episodes on a few occasions, right? When he puts a lightsaber through his stomach and when he chokes and leaves that. These are my issues with the series. He does something cool and then he just like doesn't finish them off, or he doesn't do something brutal like we see him do multiple times in the original trilogy or in Revenge of the Sith, for example. But these are my little annoyances with the show. Like I don't feel like they're using him correctly, and it's bugged me throughout the series, to be honest. The little we got of
would
him,
make sure they were completely destroyed. That's Vader
what I feel. And even the whole fire thing in that third episode, he dragged Obi-Wan through it, and then Tyler shot something and there was just a bit more fire and he just couldn't go through it. These are just like things that, I've been irritated with the show and the writing or whatever it is. I just don't feel like they're using Vader to his best.
I don't disagree with any of that. I think those are very good points, honestly. Almost to that point, I would even argue that since we know this is set as early as it is in the timeline of Darth Vader, not Anakin Skywalker, but Darth Vader specifically, you could almost argue that the reason we know him to be this, always leaving to make sure people are dead and unfinished off, you can almost make the argument that these are the reasons why. With it being, because at this point he's been Vader, he's been operating for 9 years, less, something like that, 9 or 10 years. But other than just kind of being a figurehead, he hasn't had as much to do. When he shows up in that town in episode part 3, hunting for Obi-Wan, is kind of this first time people are seeing him, and civilians are running out to say, "Hey, what are you doing, Vader?" And then he snaps a kid's neck because they don't know who he is yet. They just know that he's this other guy. But we've brought her up twice now, so let's talk about Reva and her arc and how it kind of finished in this episode. Because that for me, as it has been throughout this whole show, Reva's character has been my kind of big Achilles heel with this show, where I just don't really see what the purpose of her was. And when we get to the end of it, where she, seems like she's trying to get this weird blind revenge justice thing, gives up at the end, and now she's just off somewhere. That's the one thing with this show where I still think this was some of the best acting we've seen out of Moses Ingram in these last 2 episodes in this whole show, but I still feel like her character was just kind of pointless. Bogz, what about you?
Absolutely agree, 100%. I didn't even want to talk about it, to be honest. It was such, how frustrated I was when they were fighting Obi-Wan and Vader, and it kept cutting to her, drawing her slowly hunting. I was like, oh my God, what are we doing? Stop going to Reva. That's what I kept saying. Stop cutting to them. It was so bad. And I completely agree. She's a complete waste in this series. I mean, what was she doing exactly? She just scared Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen for a bit, and then went to Luke, and then all of a sudden had I've changed my mind. I've had a redemption arc, last second, and then takes him back. And then what does she do? She's just out there doing what exactly? I don't know. What was the relevance of her? What is she brought to Star Wars? I have no clue. It's completely baffling. And it's she's one of my worst characters, quite frankly, I've ever seen in Star Wars. A complete waste. This episode just made. How did she even get? More? Yeah, definitely. How did she even get to Tatooine? This was the events were so soon after the last episode. She's got a massive hole in her stomach. No, she's been stabbed several times now by Vader, and how did she get there? It's so confusing. And yeah, I mean, I despise that character. I'm sorry, I do. And yeah, I was literally getting angry when it kept cutting to her. During the Obi-Wan and Vader fight scene, I just didn't care. Opened up ridiculously with her, and she just annoyed me throughout. And she had the very obvious, turn, which they continuously do, particularly in the Disney Plus era, whether they're a dark side character or an Imperial, and they have that redemption arc, and they always go back to the light, or the Rebellion or Republic, whether if it's Kylo Ren, whether if it's Iden Versio in the games, whether it's Reva, whether it's Finn, they just continuously do it again and again. Obviously, Vader does it in the original series, but obviously that was the original series. But since then, it just happens so many times. And you don't really get that in the prequels. Obviously, George Lucas telling the story that he did. If anything, it's the other way around. They're good and they go evil, whatever. But it's just continuously happening in these Disney Plus kind of, or Disney era. And it's just so predictable and frustrating. There's other ways to handle villains, and they're just doing the same thing over and over. You can see it on my laugh, and this was the most I've been annoyed with this character probably in this episode. So it's actually, I'm relieved this series is kind of over because I don't have to watch Reva most weeks. So that's how annoying it was. Honestly.
When it was cutting away constantly, it harkened back to episode 3 when it was Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting, and it would cut away to Yoda and the Emperor fighting. The difference was when it cut away to the Emperor and Yoda fighting, it was still pretty cool. It was still exciting. It was fun. Here it was exciting lightsaber fight. Wounded person walking in the desert. Exciting lightsaber fight. Wounded person walking in the desert, chasing a child, not catching the child. I know she's stabbed, but I didn't care. Soul, what about you?
Yeah, I hated the cutting back and forth. And I will say, last episode and this episode, best acting by Moses Ingram. but she should have died. Narratively, she should have died last episode. I don't know why she was alive. What is the point of going after Luke? There's literally like to exact your revenge. That doesn't get your revenge. It doesn't like narratively. It makes no sense that she goes to Tatooine first, like hops over to Tatooine so quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes no sense that she's there. It makes no sense she's going after Luke. It to me, I was like, why are you here? What are you doing? And you have that cool moment of her seeing herself in Luke and seeing herself now as Vader, as Anakin. And like that would have been such a cool moment if her character was written so much better. But because her character is not written well in this story and the direction that she's been given has not been good, that was like it kind of makes that scene not as good. And I'm just the whole time I'm just like I was writing in my notes, I was like, she should be dead. It would have made so much more sense. Have her see that glimmer of like what she's done wrong, but still have her die a villain. That would have been so much cooler. But the fact that doing this redemption arc, I think everyone's seeing like Avatar: The Last Airbender and trying to do a Prince Zuko, and they're doing it terribly.
Yeah.
Each time they try to make a villain into a good character, like you guys need to pay attention more to Prince Zuko's arc, because that's the best like going from a villain to a good person that I've ever seen, and any other time it's just not working.
I liken this.
I have 2 points with Reva. Sorry, I keep remembering afterwards what my points. After I finish speaking, but 2 points. Number one, Obi-Wan should have sliced her in half after she came back with Luke. You know, just eliminate her. You know, she knows who she is, who Luke is. You know, he knows his whereabouts. I wish he just cut her in half and that'll be the end of her, because she looks like she might get her own series now, or God knows.
Please stop.
We'll see. Yeah. Secondly, you know, I have seen a few interviews with her. She's never seen a Star Wars movie prior to auditioning for the role.
Really?
And I think you can tell. Yeah, because, for example, watching Miss Marvel, which is currently on at the same time, at the point of this recording anyway, you can tell from the Miss Marvel character, Iman Vellani, that she is a hardcore MCU fan, a Marvel fan. Soul sent me some videos of her doing trivia. Excellent. You just feel the love of the kind of world that she's in and her knowledge. I wish she got the same from these new people coming into Star Wars, because I feel like watching her in the show, I feel like she's never seen a Star Wars movie before. The way that she acts, her performance is really, really, really not good. Obviously, that's got to do with direction and the writing and stuff, but I sense that she hasn't seen Star. Like, I can literally tell when I'm watching it. So I can't be the only person that thinks like that. So, and like I said, that I know that for a fact because I've seen her interview say never seen a Star Wars movie. But obviously, when she got hired, she's since watched, Revenge of the Sith, etc. So, but I feel like she's not a fan, and I feel like it comes through in her work. And it's extremely disheartening when you see like Iman Vellani, who's a treasure really for like that's I want that in Star Wars, like that level of knowledge, because you would see that in the performance, the subtleties, the way they act and stuff, and I just can't see that with her. And so I just wanted to say that as well.
No, I'm with you guys. For me, it feels like, because I was talking to a friend about this the other day with Nightmare on Elm Street, which is completely off topic, but when they did the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street with Jackie Earle Haley, they changed stuff about Freddy Krueger's backstory to make him more of a sympathetic villain, to where he had been falsely accused of these crimes and was falsely persecuted and turned him into the same. I didn't need that. I was totally fine with Freddy Krueger just being evil. Same with Maleficent. I don't need her to be this tragicness. I am fine with my evil characters just being evil.
I did like the first Maleficent a little bit.
It is what it is. It's cool if they have a compelling motivation, but I'm fine with them also just being evil. And so I thought that there was enough of, if you're going to have like the fourth brother,
I believe.
Brother, you're going to have these other Inquisitors who we already know from Rebels anyway, I don't need another new Inquisitor. Just let me have the ones I've got, because there was this big whole deal about him being casted in the show, or the Grand Inquisitor for that matter.
And barely did shit.
The Grand Inquisitor is in small slices of 3 episodes, if you could even count that for episode 5.
Which is kind of good because he doesn't look good. Like
he doesn't. But if you're going to cast that good, if you're going to cast that good of an actor,
right,
and make him sit for 4 hours in the makeup chair to do that makeup, let's explore him some more. Let's continue to explore this character. Let's build him up. I didn't need another new character. I would have been totally fine with this being just the Grand Inquisitor or the fifth brother or the one of the other sisters who was there. So everything with Reva, again, I blame all of that solely on the writing. I do not blame it on Moses Ingram. I blame it on the directing and the writing. She was given nothing to do, and what she was given to do was not good, plain and simple. We also tied up the relationship and the story with Princess Leia's rescue and getting home. Baby Leia is adorable, and that young actress has just knocked it out of the park. Whether the episodes themselves were good, she has always been good in what she does. Soul, what did you think of the? And I don't have her name pulled up, but how we tied off things with young Leia.
it was so cute. Just like, first off, that she goes to Lola, like, screw Obi-Wan, like Lola. I love. I was just like, that's such a kid thing, and just going after your droid. And kind of like you see that familial thing, like Anakin with his droids, Luke with his droids. Now you see Leia like with her own droid, which then like, what happens to Lola? I need to know what happens to Lola, because Lola's not in A New Hope. But just the moment of just like, I knew your parents. I wrote down like, you're wise, discerning, kind-hearted, that you get from your mother, passionate, fearless, forthright. Like, those are the gifts you got from your father. So like, using the word gifts too when talking about Anakin, and like, he just fought with Anakin. He just saw like, oh, then you no longer are here, but then he's still speaking so highly of Anakin. So it was kind of like just the sweet moment there for me.
Yeah, he knew that he was there for most of Anakin, almost all of Anakin's life. He knew the best parts of Anakin, the things that made him the hero that he was up until his fall. And I loved the moment where she's like, Lola, and I could almost feel Obi-Wan going like, okay, fuck me, all right, fine, whatever. But I love there was a bit of an evolution with her character, where now we're really starting to see the early seedlings of this fierce leader she's going to become eventually. Boggs, what about you? What did you think?
Yeah, so I do like the little actress. Her name is Vivian Lyra Blair.
Thank you.
Yes, but you know, there's no reason for young Leia to be in this show. No reason. It mainly because of the breaking canon potentially thing, which I guess they kind of sorted that in a way where Obi-Wan tells her by the end, you know, don't say anything, kind of thing. So when, you know, she does do the message, she doesn't indicate that she knows him. Yeah, sure, okay, I guess they've written themselves out of that. So but I just feel like, yeah, we didn't need young Leia. And yeah, I kind of like the actress though. Yeah, she did have cute moments, and some of the score was at its best there. So we got Leia's theme, we got you know, the Force theme when they were talking and stuff. So the very little we got of the original themes and stuff, you know, I guess I like that part. But yeah, I just yeah, she's the smartest 10-year-old I've ever seen. Again, some of them scenes were painful, quite frankly, throughout the series. And I get what they were trying to do, but just no, yeah, I just didn't need that from the Obi-Wan Vader series. You know, I just did not need young Leia running around, everyone chasing her. And yeah, obviously,
Bogz, you now like her the least? Because I thought I was the one that liked her the least throughout this series.
No, yeah, just
the three of us.
Just the more I've seen her character, I'm just so disappointed in the way that, yeah, she was kind of telling everyone, you know, what to do sometimes, and you know, the whole story was revolved around her. Like, I'm honestly, I do not care. This is Obi-Wan and Anakin's story. It's the Kenobi story. The whole half the series he spent chasing young Leia, and
Yeah.
that's not, that's bad for me, and that's bad story.
And the like, just pick her up.
Telling.
She's right next to you. Just lift.
Mm.
How is she
Yeah.
getting away? I'm still not over that. I'm still not over the that episode.
But yeah, they didn't. So they kind of tied it up in a, it's a mess. In terms of don't say anything, and that's basically it then. So if you ever need me, I'm here. But I guess that's acceptable from what they put out. It's barely acceptable, but I guess it could have been worse.
I thought that was kind of again because again, and we've said this since day one. Apparently, we're the only ones who were confused by that. Everyone else seemed to think they already knew each other. Whatever.
No, I did see a lot of. I saw both, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, definitely people seeing that as well. Like, come on.
But I'm with you. It's like, okay, if that's how we're gonna if that's how we're gonna tie off that loose end, fine. It's fine. It's not the worst. It's not the best. And kind of go to your point too. It's like, yeah, I did not expect to have this be Obi-Wan Kenobi plays with young Leia as a show. It was, I was expecting a little bit more Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan surviving in the desert, avoiding detection kind of thing.
I was expecting more Hayden Christensen too. Like we got like the ghost of him and the him. I'm forgetting that English word. What is it? Whatever. He's there in the desert. Like he sees
the hallucination.
Hallucination. There we go. So seeing a hallucination of him, I was hoping that we would see more of that.
Yeah, that was kind of an outlier moment in that episode, and because it never happens again.
And
I mean, I was hoping for Clone Wars flashbacks when them actual together fighting in the Clone Wars, for example. Anakin's kind of inner monologue like we got with Obi-Wan's, maybe Force
a little
Ghost
bit more
visiting
Order 66.
Anakin. I mean, so many things that they could have done, and instead they've given so much time to Reva and young Leia. I mean, it's absolutely frustrating.
When I look at what a waste of an episode Part 4 was, because I still contest that Part 4 was an unmitigated disaster. That would have been a great episode. Like, can you imagine the excitement of seeing the slight Jedi armor costumes from Clone Wars done in live action with Hayden Christensen and Obi-Wan? Episode 4 would have been a great moment to have flashbacks to a mission from the Clone Wars
with little Ahsoka, or they could have done so much. There would have been emotional, and they just missed them up.
But I also look at it as is this what I wanted? No. Is what I got like the Leia stuff? Did I want a bunch of Leia stuff? No. Was it good? Sure, for the most part, hiding under a coat, walking through a Imperial bases. Anyway, but let's.
And it almost worked. It almost
worked. We had two really nice big cameos in this episode. One of which I think everybody was kind of expecting, but we're kind of just hoping to actually get it. And the other one, I don't think I ever actually thought about, but it makes sense now in the grand scheme of things. We had a cameo of Liam Neeson as the Force Ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn, and Sir Ian McDermott back as the Emperor in a hologram communicating with Vader, and we know that these were cameos because this was all new dialogue. The makeup looked really good, I thought, on the Emperor and his hologram. Seeing Liam Neeson back as Qui-Gon just made my heart so happy. Soul, how did you feel about these cameos?
I was like, throughout the episode, I'm like, we're not gonna get Qui-Gon. Like they teased him so much, and we're not gonna get it. Like I was like, this is bullshit. And then we got Qui-Gon. I was like, yes, we got it. And I liked it too. It was just when he said, I even wrote it down. Like, I was always here. You were just not ready to see. I was like, I love that. I love it. And just seeing Palpatine, I was like, okay. I was kind of expecting a little bit more, like, because Vader talks to Palpatine a lot. Like, I was expecting to probably see him. So, like, I was a little surprised that we didn't see him throughout until that last moment. But I was like, okay, get a little bit of Palps there.
Yeah, I think it makes sense that he wasn't there the whole time, because you can tell this is something Vader was trying to handle internally. This
Yeah.
was personal for him. But when you start deviating Star Destroyers from their paths and people are getting killed in raids, at some point the Emperor is going to look across his desk at the numbers and go, "Yeah, somebody get me Vader, please."
Yeah.
Bogz, what about you? What'd you think about the two cameos we got?
Yeah, if we did a pre-show, I would have mentioned both of these, hoping to see both of these characters. A shout out to Aunt Brew as well. I think she was a
Oh,
cameo
yeah.
in effect.
She was a
who wasn't in
badass
the-
this
That's true.
episode.
I forgot. Yeah, we finally got to see Aunt Beru. We got to see her and Owen do some action.
Right. And she stuck it on Owen a bit. Whose fault is that? He's gone.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Aunt Brew. Wow. So that was nice.
Yeah.
Because I remember she got casted, and I was thinking
Yeah.
she's not in the whole series. So I did remember that whilst watching the episode. So I was glad she got her kind of 15 minutes or whatever. And yeah, seeing the Emperor first, honestly fantastic. Like he looks great. He sounds great. But again, this just shows a comparison from whether Filoni or Favreau is in charge. Look at like Star Wars Rebels. The first episode, within the first minute, Vader is talking to the Emperor. Okay, in this Kenobi and Vader series, for me, the Emperor should have been in a lot of it. I understand it's not his story, but Vader answers to, he has a master. He talks to Obi-Wan about master, whatever their dialogue is, former master. He has a current master. I feel like he has a relevance in the story, especially with the Inquisitors, whether it's the books, the comics, in Rebels. He has communication with Vader about the Inquisitors, etc. And I wish they used him more, because he looks fantastic. Obviously, there's not many times where we might see Ian McDermott as Palpatine moving forward, just in the future of Star Wars. So I really would have liked to seen him and Hayden Christensen, together more. Obviously, I really liked, the little we got. And the one moment in the series I just got completely misty-eyed was when I just saw Qui-Gon Jinn. Like, even though I was literally saying the same thing, oh, he's coming, and then I kind of forgot, like, oh, are they not going to do it? Like, and then just as out the blue there, I just saw him, coming in the blue, and he looked fantastic as Qui-Gon Jinn. I thought, is this 1999 or what? Like, he just looked amazing. Like, that is, and he's not been in Star Wars, obviously, on camera, in terms of appearing as obviously he's done voice work, but appearing physically since 1999 with Ewan McGregor. So that's such a long time. We talked Hayden Christensen not being in since 2005, but this is way before that. And obviously he's a huge character to a lot of people, to Obi-Wan as well. So seeing him was such a relief. I don't even genuinely remember what he said. I wouldn't have remembered until Sol said it, that, because I've only seen it once, and I was like, they're doing it. It was so short. I just wish they got it. I wish they did more of it, but it was the way the show ended with Anakin, Palpatine, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon Jinn is, I want that show of what we got there. So, and that just sums up really the series for me. I know when it comes to that, but the best moments in the show for me have been Anakin, Obi-Wan, Palpatine, Qui-Gon Jinn, Aunt Beru, Uncle Owen, obviously a little bit of Luke, a little bit of Leia. So the legacy, or the characters in between 3 and 4 who we already know and love, the new characters that they're bringing in, they're just not up to scratch. The real main character that we've got, obviously Reva, who is terrible for me. Obviously we've got Kumail Nanjiani's character. I understand people not liking it. I have a soft spot for him. That's why I like to see him in it. But O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s character as well, he wasn't great as well, to be honest. And Nala, I know people like her, but I didn't particularly like her. So these characters are nowhere near the level of interest of the older legacy characters. So I just wish they dived into their scenes more, because there's so much more emotion and relevance connected to these than the newer legacy characters. Because if they did bring in the newer characters, they have to be up to scratch. I mean, we're dealing with people find Star Wars perfection, and you're dealing with these subpar characters. It's just not working at the minute. So that I just wanted to say that the legacy character stuff, I was emotional, dramatic. Again, how it ended, I thought was gripping. Compared to what we got in terms of the newer stuff, was really hard to get through. So.
And I want to speak a little about O'Shea Jackson Jr. because he's such a phenomenal actor. Why did they not give him more? Like, they could have given him so much more.
We don't get him until episode 5. Like, it was such a 4, episode 4 for 30 seconds, and then he's in 5 for a minute or two, and then in this one he's got about a minute of screen time. I kind of want to echo what Bogz said. Anything that was, that there were the nostalgia characters, great, fantastic, could, wonderful. They kept dropping new characters on us into the
and not doing it well, because you can drop new characters and do it well.
But when we get into the 5th episode and I'm still meeting new people, it's like, this show's about to end. Stop trying. That's all time that could be spent with the characters that we're here to see.
Short episodes as well.
Yeah,
and
very
full
short.
Of these new. Obviously, they can do new good characters, like in The Mandalorian, but in a lot of the other content, I'm really not liking.
Or like when we got Ahsoka was a newer character. Like when you were watching the Clone Wars the first time, like you guys know how to put new characters into Star Wars and make it good. Just do that.
Well, and I think the episode length was a big criticism I've had since day one, which is there's no need for these episodes to be 30 minutes. I think Obi-Wan Kenobi's episodes were some of the shortest of any Disney Plus series. I got to go look at the actual numbers, but these were some of the, because they were talking about Moon Knight's finale being one of the shortest, but like some of these Obi-Wan episodes clocked out at, like, when you remove the credits and the previously on stuff, they were like 30 minutes tops. And there's no real excuse for that when the Mandalorian episodes are pushing an hour, Boba Fett episodes are pushing an hour. Stranger Things is dropping 1.5 hour episodes.
Boys an hour, Miss Marvel's kind of 48 minutes or so, and how is Obi-Wan's just barely 30 minutes? It's massively frustrating. But honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I'm quite relieved the show is over, because it was I feel like it was like a weight on my chest every episode, and it'd get lifted off a few times, like in the last couple of episodes, but it kind of remained there until it finished.
Hey, you got a good ending, and then now it's gone.
But you know what? But what I do want to point out is kind of a beginning to wrap up here, because we've been talking for a bit, is I think that's one of the great things about this group of people right here, these three of us, because we've got Bogz, who ultimately not a fan, had things he liked, but ultimately was highly disappointed in the show. Me, who aside from episode 4, and my nitpicks here and there, I've kind of liked for the most part what the show has been, in the mentality of it's not what I wanted, but what I got, except for episode 4, was pretty darn, I thought was pretty darn good. Soul, I think you're kind of somewhere in the middle of that.
Yeah.
So
I don't hate it as much as Bogz, but I do not like it as much as you. I think it's when, like, the good moments, I'm able to enjoy them. And like I said, if you take away your logical brain, you can enjoy a lot of the show. But the second you put your logical brain in, you're just like, what is going on? And I think because Bogz is always logical, he's a friggin' Spock Data over there, like that he's not able to like it, like in most of the parts, where me, I'm just like, okay, logic, throw it away.
But you can only suspend your disbelief so much before,
right? Exactly.
There's also being a passionate Star Wars fan about particularly the prequels and the original trilogy, the George Lucas original story that he's given us, basically, and the Clone Wars as well, probably. So, and it's when you're dealing, when for me, that's the storytelling we've got is perfection. Okay, so you're telling stories in between that. You've got to be so careful, and then not being that careful. To be honest, for me, I mean, so sometimes they're a bit clever here and there, or some things are acceptable, but the stuff that they're giving us with these newer characters is painful to get through, and because, like I said, it's affecting what we've got, because they can't, obviously legally they can't change their movies, thank God, but the stuff that they are putting in between is so disheartening, unfortunately.
And leaving the Grand Inquisitor dead for that long,
for almost the whole show.
Almost the whole show, doing things like, I know it's just like us three mostly, like we're like, this is breaking canon with Leia knowing Obi-Wan, kind of like those things where when you're doing prequels, when you're doing in between stuff, it's exactly, you have to be so careful, because you, like, Star Wars fans, Some of them, like, we're crazy. Like, we will nitpick every little thing and go, this doesn't fit canon. Like, we're crazy like that. And so, like, you have to be super, super careful because we're going to be like, that doesn't logically fit. That it goes against this, that goes against that. And yeah, you can fix things up a little bit. Like we saw that in the Bad Batch, where like it goes a little bit against the comic with Kanan in Order 66, but it was still like good. What we saw. So we're like, okay, they're retconning this and it actually is good. Because I think in like the comics it happens during the daytime and it happens a little bit differently. But still, like, you can change things up, but there's good ways to go about it.
Yeah. Change is fine as long as it's a good change, as long as it makes sense. I don't mind if something is retconned or changed. It's for the betterment of something, or if in some way it works better. But ultimately, yeah, when you've got as many years and as many people out there dedicated to these stories, there's almost no excuse for getting things wrong, because there's easily 5 people out there who could sit there and go, nope, that connects to this or that. I mean, we did it. Who the hell are we? You know, we're just 3 nerds.
Yeah, and these are not subtle things that they're doing. You know, like for example, it's now, if I was to seriously consider this show, it's painful to get through Revenge of the Sith, knowing that this is what happens next. Or, you know, obviously the line in Return of the Jedi where, you know, Vader says to Luke, Obi-Wan once thought as you did. Where is that in this show? Like, I have no clue what they're referenced or what they talked about. For me, they didn't even address that. Like, what did Obi-Wan once think from that kind of conversation that they had in this episode? It wasn't there for me. So yeah, there's a lot, obviously with the Leia stuff as well. But like I said, they did drop a few cool stuff here and there. So unfortunately, yeah, I mean, I genuinely think this show is bad. Like, I'm talking 4 or 5 out of 10 bad, maybe even lower. But there was some cool stuff in there which brought it up. And like I said, just seeing Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor back in, Liam Neeson, you know, Ian McDermott, they are, you know, amazing things for me just to see them back. So that kind of brings it up a little bit, but really I've struggled with the show because these are some of my favorite characters of all time and they just haven't got it right.
Well, we want to know what you guys think, so please, by all means, go down in the comments, like I'm sure you will, and let us know all the ways that we're wrong or right. Who knows? Maybe you, which camp are you in? Are you in with me? Are you with Soul? Are you with Bogz? Are you somewhere in between? Let us know in the comments or on Twitter. All our Twitter stuff's down in the bottom, as well as our reviews to every episode of this show, as well as Ms. Marvel, The Boys, the Orville, all kinds of reactions on this channel, all kinds of stuff. So make sure you check that out. And on behalf of Soul and Bogz, until next time, I'm Mike. We'll see you guys around.